Hello and welcome to the DPMDA podcast. My name's Sean and joining me as always is the one and only Dante Boffin. Mr. Boffin, my man, how are we?
I'm good, Sean. I just want to say a heartfelt thanks to you for hooking me up with the Mr. Cool mug and also a Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith glass for my water. So you've really done me a solid here.
The fine china is coming out. All stops have been, what's that saying? Yeah, I didn't actually get a choice in the Star Wars Episode 3. It was a random pick, so Don't put me down for the episode 3 pick.
Episode 3 is actually one of my favourite episodes. I'm a prequels fan because it's just life. It's not sacred. You know, we shouldn't be holding it so dear that we can't look past the terrible dialogue and various other terrible aspects of it and just enjoy ourselves with it.
I also enjoy the prequels, but I can't get around episode 1.
It's shit, but it's also good.
But yes, you got the Darth Maul stuff, and it's really cool and really great score. But
great score,
the fucking pod racing and the whole thing leading up to the pod racing.
There's some awful stuff in it.
And a really big plot hole is that remember when Watto was like, oh yeah, you want to buy this slave off me? And then old mate Qui-Gon Jinn's like, oh yeah, how about some galactic credits? And he goes, no, I don't accept galactic credits. Why would a dude who literally makes a living off living in one of the most busiest spaceports in the whole entire galaxy, why would he not accept the global currency?
But they're in the Outer Rim. Tatooine's
still pretty busy. I don't know if you saw Mos Eisley, the traffic, mate, on a Wednesday at 5 o'clock.
It's busy. Peak out. It's busy with criminals and people who don't want to be seen. People who are on the black market where galactic credits aren't good enough for them. Aren't I didn't think they're traceable. Yeah. It's they're basically dealing in cash only.
Financial footprint.
And he's rocked up and said, "Yeah, I'll transfer you." And Watto's gone, "No, thank you. I will not be taking a transfer.
I don't have a BSB."
Yeah, he's like cash only. That's I think is the comparison.
Okay.
You got to focus on the good bits.
Oh, yeah.
Every bit with Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn, who's my favorite Star Wars character.
Yeah, I'm a bit simple. I just really like Obi-Wan Kenobi. There's a new thing coming out with him.
Yeah, amazing.
Is it a movie or a TV show?
I think it's a TV show. Is it not?
You don't have Disney Plus, do you?
No, I do have Disney Plus. I've been absolutely doing some disgusting stuff to Bob's Burgers recently.
Have you seriously?
Yeah.
You know I love Bob's Burgers, right?
I actually didn't know that.
What?
Yeah, I'm in about season 7.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
I've been doing just filthy things to Bob Bergen. If you maybe Zuckerberg's listening, but whenever Bob Bergen posts something on Facebook, I'll just comment oh, I love Bob Burger.
I think I have actually seen you do that.
Yeah,
but is it a genuine love?
Yeah. Oh, it's just such stupid.
I'll write that in the notebook. That stuff that we can talk about.
All right, next week's episode is called Bob Bergen. How fucking weird is Tina?
Oh, she's crazy.
Teenage parts.
My favourite characters are Andy and Ollie.
Yeah,
because I just think that they have such a beautiful relationship. They
I love
just
Jimmy.
These codependent twins that they just can't live without each other. I just love it. It's beautiful.
I actually love them all. And the Italian dude called Jimmy Pesto. All right, final Bob Burger comment. I really, really like Jimmy.
Jimmy, you just said that.
Yeah, I know, but the crush. And can we talk about that?
Oh,
just
Jimmy Jr.
Jimmy Jr. Yeah.
Hey, Tina.
Okay, good. We smashed that out. You wanted to intro the second half of the 2021-22 over-unders brought to you by MeUndies, did you?
Yeah, I did, but I feel like you've kind of stolen my thunder with introing it. But anyway, this is the second part of our over-unders episode. We're doing the West this time, so if you listen to any of our previous over-under episodes, you know the drill, but basically we're looking at the Vegas odds for teams. They set the number at a half number, which represents the total number of wins, and we can either choose over or under for each team. So we're going to kick it off in the Northwest Division with the 2019-20 NBA champion Utah Jazz. Whose over-under is set at 52.5, which would have them smack bang in the playoff picture. Sean, what say you?
So through 82 games, through 72 games last year. If you extrapolate that out to 82, they won 59 games. So this number is saying they're going to lose 7 more games when all they did was replace Derek Favors, who was not as good as his contract, still like a fine role player, but they replaced him with Hassan Whiteside, who for the money is much better value because he's on a minimum. And they brought in Rudy Gay, which if anything, just gives Quinn Snyder another look in the regular season, because Quinn Snyder loves the regular season. But it just gives him another look. He can play a small ball 5. He can play next to Rudy Gobert. He could probably even just slide up and guard in the perimeter if he's not too fat. I don't know why this team would get 7 wins worse. And also, Rudy Gobert, still Defensive Player of the Year, still one of the more interesting offensive players in the regular season. And then Donovan Mitchell just grows because he's a young dude.
I think this is the most incomprehensible, certainly out of all of the ones in the West. At least I'm going hard over as well. There's just no way this team's going to be 7 wins worse. We talked about it on talking about the Bucks on the last episode, but this is another team that just has the regular season down pat. Derek Favors was such a minimal contributor, and between Whiteside, Gay, and your boy Eric Pascal coming in, those 3 will be able to do double what Favors was giving them last year with a bit more flexibility. There's no way that this team is just dropping off. 7 games less would be a massive drop off, and that's just not coming from this team with 2 genuine all-stars, Defensive Player of the Year, and couple of guys who are getting older, but I'm not going to say that Conley, Ingles, and Bogdanovic are going to drop off a cliff.
Yeah. And even if they do, let's say one of them's just dead in the water, fine.
This is the ultimate all of the cogs turn in unison team, all the gears work together, and they've proven that over the last 3 or 4 years. So I think this is the easiest pick possible.
Over under racist incidents from the Utah Jazz crowd at 1.5.
I reckon that's low, to be honest. I've actually got a Mormon in one of my uni classes.
And did you ask him about Danny Ainge?
Nah, didn't want to really engage on that. Her name's Karen. She's
it's my mum.
Yeah, well, no, she doesn't spell it. She doesn't spell it cool like your mum. She spells it regular. But she's from Provo in Utah. And she didn't say that she was a Mormon, but she did say that she's a mother of 13 and grandmother of 33. So I was like, Utah, 33 grandchildren. And then she started talking about, this is just in one of the discussion board posts. And then she started talking about the leader of her congregation.
Yeah.
Some wise words that this guy, the leader of my congregation, said back in 1983, and then I googled the guy, and he's the head of he became the head of the Mormon church. So anyway,
it's Josh TV.
I'll chat with Karen, and I'll just say Karen, I need you to work some magic over in Salt Lake City, and just say all right, tamp it down.
Yeah. Something tells me that's not going to work. I'm hitting you over. So. The next team are the Denver Nuggets. Their number is set at 48.5 wins, which I think this is one of the more difficult numbers out of all 30 teams, because obviously you've got no Jamal Murray, and look, I don't think Jamal Murray is going to touch the court this entire season. If he does come back 12 months after he first injured himself in April 12th, that fateful day, this will have him coming back game 81 and then just jumping into the playoffs. So if he does come back, it'll be like Paul George after he had that leg injury where he played 10 games at the end and averaged 8 minutes, and it was just look, just literally just put the jersey on. I think Michael Porter Jr. will definitely take a leap and become a 23-point plus scorer and a quite fine second option.
If he doesn't get COVID.
Well, he's had COVID twice, so maybe he can get the triple. It's just everything about this team is really good, but I just think they're going to win 48 games. This is extremely hard. I don't see them going over. Just because it is just sort of...
Are you going to go with the infamous 2-number push here?
I'm not going with the old 2-number push. I'm going under just because losing Jamal, yes, they've got heaps of depth behind them, but now they're just even more vulnerable to just any injuries. And I think if everything goes right, they'll win 50 games. And Jokic always plays 82 games, right? But if everything goes right, they'll get 50 wins. But if anything goes wrong, it's just a little bit worse now that you're missing your starting point guard. And Michael Porter Jr.'s back flared up in the Phoenix Suns series and was
it didn't just flare up, it just completely submarined him.
Yeah, and Barton Harden's always getting injured, and like if either of the Greens get injured, then all of a sudden Zeke, Najee, and Bol have to play backup centre minutes, and I don't think either of them are ready to do that. So I've gone with the under. What have you done?
I think that you've shown remarkable professionalism here, and in not going with the over on your favourite team. So I just want
my second favourite team.
I just want we all know what's really going on.
I feel like a 10-year-old say they're my second favourite team, and then the Port Adelaide Power are my third.
I go for Collingwood, and I also like Carlton. Okay, well, I think the two factors. I agree. This is one of the harder ones. I really wrestled with this. I've gone over. One thing that made me kind of say, like, oh, I don't know, maybe it'll be under, is that, and you've talked about this a couple of times, is that everyone's now locked up. Gordon's locked up, Murray's locked up, Jokic is locked up, Porter Jr.'s locked up. Done. That's the core. You're going to get minimum 3 more years of this core after this season. So if Murray misses the whole season, there's no point in going like hell for leather and trying to like make win now trades or like mess up your continuity or whatever just to try and get a few extra wins. So maybe that will lead to them being a bit more conservative and saying like, well, if we get 44 wins, it doesn't really matter. But I just come back to when you look at the rest of the team, yes, health issues like, might submarine them, but you're providing that doesn't happen. Like you've got the MVP, you've got MPJ who's going to average 25 points a game. Aaron Gordon's still really good, and then you've just got a collection of quality role players who can succeed in small roles. If they have to start playing above their head, and you're now needing like Monte Morris to play 30 minutes a game, and like Jeff Green's coming in and being like you're starting big, then you're in trouble. But those guys can be really effective, I think, in small roles. So. MVP is still on this team. I just can't see them like not getting 50 and being like around the 3, 4, 5 seed. So I've gone over.
Monte Morris will be playing 30 minutes a game. He's almost definitely going to be the starting point guard ahead of Facu.
Yeah.
He also had this quote where he said to Mike Singer of the Denver Post, where he said that he finally just had surgery on some extremity, right? I can't remember what it was, but maybe it's like a leg, and he said it's always been bothering me since I was drafted in like 2017, and he's had this injury that's always been like holding him back. I'm like, what? For 3 years you've just had this like this injury that's like making you hurt when you jump, and then he finally got it addressed, and then the article went to go on, and there was quotes about him saying like this is my year, and I mean I wrote an article as well saying 2021 22
where did you write that article?
Nuglove.com. It's a marijuana outlet. So it's just like this is Monte Morris's for the taking, and as you know, like he doesn't miss a single jump shot ever. Like it's just fucking beautiful.
He's got Sean Livingston disease.
He actually does, and he for the past like 3 seasons he's had a lower assist to turnover ratio than Chris Paul, and the only guard who'd played like 500 minutes last year that had like less turnovers in him was CJ McCollum, and that's a dude who's clearly not making plays as well. Like he's more of a scorer, as you know. So it's like this could be a massive year for Monte Morris, but as you said, this is all towards the following year. And like you look at all the dudes they signed, like Jeff Green, then re-upping Biden and re-upping JaMychal Green. They're all 2-year deals, because this is all about like, okay, who have we got here? Who are the role players to move into next year? So you've got this off season to find people to put around your core, and next off season, and then they better fucking win 22, 23.
Yeah.
But they'll also be able to compete for the following 5 years, which is a beautiful spot to be in, and all the more reason not to just like trade an injured Jamal for Bradley Beal halfway through the year.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to the Portland Trailblazers. Do you want to run through their particulars?
So the over-under for the Trailblazers is set at 44.5, which is play-in range. And this is another one that I wrestled with. I'm going under, which I think is probably the first time I've been markedly like non-Trailblazers positive. But I'm going under just because I think that Dame's getting traded.
Yeah.
And if Dame gets traded, this team gets worse. You could get Ben Simmons back. You could get, whoever back. You could get like all of the Warriors assets. You could get... Name a player, you trade Dame, you're getting worse, at least in the short term for that season. So even if it's an all-star coming back, you're not getting better. So I think the fact that I'm tipping that to happen, even outside of what's going on in the on the roster, I think that you lose Dame for half the season and you're completely tanked. So I'm going under.
I only factored that in for like 1% of my under prediction, because I don't think he's getting traded. But obviously, if he does, then we both just look great because they're not going to win those games. I've gone under simply because, again, they're really thin on the front court, and like you saw what happens whenever Nurk went down and then Enos the Penis Cantor came in. It's like, hang on, he's not actually a starting quality centre. So right now they've got Yusuf Nurkic and Cody Zeller, two guys who, they get injured every now and again.
Yeah, Nurk famously.
And if either one of them miss time, their only other 5 options are Larry Nance and Robert Covington, which is like, yeah, that's awesome and it's really cool.
For 8 minutes a game.
For 8 minutes a game, yeah. You don't I think Larry Nance would be a fine closing centre, but you don't want to do that the whole entire game, yeah. You just know how it is. So if any of those two bigs miss time, they're immediately thin. And it's like, yes, you can easily get bigs at the trade deadline, or you can just sign Isaiah Hartenstein and just hope that maybe this is the break for him. But it's just like, yeah, it's just really scary to not have big depth.
And the problem is there's some teams where if one of your big wings or like your 4 gets injured, you could like slide somebody up. Like we talked about Indiana last time. Like if Warren can't play, like you could see a world in which you're going with like Levert at the 3 at the 4. They've got such positional redundancy with their 3 best players, or 3 of their 4 best players, in CJ, Dame, and Norm Powell. That like none of them can slide up on offense, and none of them can slide up on D either. So you're kind of like locked in, and in that situation where if your starting or your rotational bigs get injured, you're just bringing in, like you said, G League guys. You can't even mishmash and like get a good player in a role that's not that suitable for him. You just have to roll with like shitty players coming through. So. There's a lot that could go wrong, not to mention, Chauncey Billups' first season as coach. So I think, the under is the right call.
Cool. Let's move on to the Minnesota Timberwolves, who their number is set at 34.5. They are, of course, going to get a full season of Chris Finch, hopefully a healthy season of D'Angelo Russell, and obviously Karl Anthony Towns had a season from hell last year. So everything is like... on this team, this is, of course, they fired their general manager, but this should be like, this is what Gerson Rose has put together. This is the team that he should have, and what he thought was going to be, let's say, a title contender. I've still hit the under because outside of those 3 names I mentioned, and one of those names is a fucking coach. Outside of those 3 names, they're really thin. But like, look, I love Jaden Daniels and Jordan McLaughlin as much as the next bloke. But this is too much. I'm going under. 34 isn't many wins, but I'm sort of addicted to going against the Minnesota Timberwolves because obviously. They won that game 82 against the Denver Nuggets for like the pseudo play-in to make the playoffs 3 years ago, and like that really upset me because you hate to see Tibbs win, and Jimmy Butler to be like, I grinded to get here. We all love those quotes. And then from there, obviously my favorite team, the Golden State Warriors, had control of their draft picks, so I was rooting for every single loss for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I just sort of just gotten used to it. So of course I'll be rooting for the Timberwolves to continue going under. What have you done?
I also am addicted to going against the Timberwolves. I have like a real Schadenfreude set up with them. But I've gone over. And I don't really know why. I'm kind of just going over on vibes.
One of these teams, like we've picked a lot of unders, and I'm sure we'll continue to, but one of these teams has to go over.
Yeah, and they're gonna be right in that like middle 30s morass with, like the Kings and the Pelicans, the Spurs maybe. They've probably got the best player out of any of those teams in Cat. I'm not fully bought in on this. This is probably one of the ones that I like. I'm like either way. Like you could convince me that the Timberwolves will be bad. It wouldn't be hard. But Chris Finch is getting rave reviews from people around the league as like a good coach, which is something that they haven't really had before in a long time. They've got Washington Wizards disease where. It's just like, let's bring in this guy who's worse than the last guy. It's just a downward spiral. But Cat obviously is really good. D'Lo, you just hope that he's healthy this year. You hope that Edwards takes a step forward, and then you just cobble together some stuff from your random role players. Malik Beasley doesn't get suspended for half the season.
Yeah, so it's helpful.
And you could see like a pretty good, pretty cohesive offense here. If Cat magically turns into a good defender again, like he once showed he could be. Big if Anthony Edwards like develops on D, big if D'Lo proves out the last 7 years of his career being a shit defender is like not to be, not the reality Probably not. So the likelihood is that they're going to be pretty terrible defensively. But I think...
But they got Patrick Beverley. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's true. They got their guy. I'm going over, but it's like an extremely soft over.
Yeah, I completely understand everything you mean. And let's move on to the Oklahoma City Thunder, whose number is set at 23.5. That is one game more than the Orlando Magic. And I've written here that this is the literal definition of downward momentum. Sam Hinkie was spewing. He got the 6th pick, not the Cade Cunningham pick, and he's just going to keep going until he gets more picks and more picks and more picks. I think we're both going to go under, and I think it's just a matter of what's the fake injury for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander this year at the end of the season, and is Derek Favors going to be on the Al Horford diet?
Well, speak for yourself, because I'm actually going over.
Really? As in just over? Or
no, just over. I just think that 23 and a half is so low.
Yeah.
That's really not very many games at all. If you get anything out of any of your young dudes and SGA, plays, part of me is also thinking they can't do what they did last year and shut SGA down for 35 games. You just can't, because at that point then what are you doing to SGA? He's not set at this level. He's young, he's still growing. He needs to play.
Yeah.
Ideally, he needs to play games that matter, but in lieu of that, he needs to actually play. You can't just be we'll deliberately sit him for this season so that then over the last 24 months he's only played 70 games. That is really not good for a young player's development.
He's that proven of a commodity.
Yeah, you need him to keep getting better as well. You're hoping that this isn't what he is, and he's not going to get better by just not playing. So I think that, and then they do have some pretty interesting young players. If any of these dudes pop, if Giddy's good, if Poku, everyone's favorite guy, can kind of get on the court and stay on the court. Lou Dort, maybe bigger offensive diet, can hit that magical vaunted 40% from the field number. Well, we hope so. I just think there's interesting stuff here, and they can't get away with shutting SGA down for as long as they did. And 23, 24 wins is so doable. You could stumble into 24 very easily. So
what if SGA is traded?
Well, then completely all bets off, and I'd probably go under.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a tiny possibility, but a tiny possibility.
Have to balance the possibilities with this exercise.
All right. Let's move to the Los Angeles Lakers, whose number is set at 52.5. I've gone over. And I think that's partly because LeBron and the Lakers were scared of the fact that they had to go through the play-in. And yes, they beat the Warriors in a really close game, but you just want to sort of get there and then just be one of the big teams that are just there so they can win. And Russ helps you win regular season games. I don't think Russ will make them better in the playoffs, and they're going to have some spacing issues. But yeah, you've just got all these proven commodities, and I've hit the over. They should be one of the best teams in the West.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think for as much criticism as I have of the way that they handled the offseason, bringing in Russ, and then the minimum veteran moves that they brought in, I think this is still a really good team, and you're just hoping that AD and LeBron are healthy for the majority of the season, which is obviously a big if. But if they are, then there's no way that this team isn't fighting for the one seed, which will have them comfortably over 52, 53.
Yeah, the aged care home depth.
Yeah, they've got they've got dudes who can come in. The thing is, can those dudes come in and hit a bucket? And the ones that can hit a three, can they dribble?
Well, Kent Bazemore can't, so that's one.
Can Wayne Ellington dribble?
No. Trevor Ariza is out for, I think it was 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, that sucks, bro. Maybe I'll go under.
Yeah, nice. LeBron James. I mean, we're not going to pick him to drop off, and probably won't for the rest of his career until he drops off.
I said it on last episode. He's the king until you take the throne. You take the crown from him. So,
do you want to talk about this next team?
Yeah, we can have a chat about it. So the Phoenix Suns set one game under the Lakers at 51.5 wins, which is again playoffs. Sean, I don't know about you, but I'm going over.
This team's better than the Lakers, and they're going to win more games than the Lakers. And
this team is better than the Lakers. I'm still literally hearing that is whoa. You know, hearing that like in 2015 when both teams are shit. It's like, yeah, we probably are better than the Lakers. Hearing that in 2021 when both teams are good, there's still something about it that just gives me like a tingle, shiver hearing that.
I think this is like the next Utah Jazz type team.
Oh my goodness! Whoa! Well, you have to warn me before you say something like that.
Where because your nucleus is so young and Chris Paul's an arsehole, you're just going to churn out these 55+ win seasons for the next handful of years. And it's weird that like even if Chris Paul drops off and this is the end for him, Cam Payne's like a good point guard. How weird is that? And because you've got Booker, you don't actually need that much playmaking out of your point guard position. It's not like he's Klay Thompson there.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you want playmaking from point guard because Booker can do it, but he's better when he doesn't have to. And last year was amazing for him because he was like fully realized as a a go-to scorer rather than having to like leave like 1 foot in the playmaking world, 1 foot in the scoring world. Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a really good team. We'll see what happens with DeAndre Ayton if he ever gets signed. And looking down the line, Mikal Bridges has a fat extension coming up as well. So we're going to be a tax team pretty quickly.
Well, apparently the Mikal Bridges talks are going better than your number 1 overall pick.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just wild that they're not just like, yeah, you probably would rather get Ayton down to like, like a 4 for 100, like take the Giannis deal or something. But it's not going to happen after what he just did in the playoffs. Like, there's no way. So just give him the bag, figure it out later. You're going to be in the tax no matter what.
Yeah.
Even if you give him 4 for 100 and you give Bridges, like
4 for 100,
you're going to be in the tax regardless. So at that point, it's just kind of like, how much money is Bobby Boy prepared to pay on the luxury tax?
That's exactly the question.
But he said before he's prepared to pay for a winner. And what is this team if not a winner after fucking
going to the finals?
50 years in the wilderness. I'm embellishing a little bit, but that's what it feels like.
Also, you played well and you won a lot of games with no backup centre, and now you got JaVale McGee, who was getting DNP CDs in the regular season for the Nuggets, but at least he's better than Frank Kaminsky.
Well, yeah, we've also got Frank Kaminsky. We've also got Jalen Smith, see if he ever plays.
Yeah, that's such a bummer, isn't it?
It's a huge bummer. I don't want to talk about it, but let's talk about it. Because there's still great players on the board when we took him. Yeah. We'll see. Too early to write him off, but...
Maybe you can do like a 2K My League and start in the off-season and just like redraft.
And not pick him, huge. Devin Vassell on my team.
Oh,
Tyrese Halliburton on my team.
All right, let's move on to the next team, which is the Golden State Warriors, a team near and dear to my heart. Their number's set at 48.5, and I am contractually obliged to hit the over.
Yeah.
So Klay Thompson's going to return just after Christmas. Bob Myers teased the return date on the first preseason game, saying, well, I can't tell you what we're aiming for, but it'll be a home game. And it's like, yeah, thanks for fucking nothing. But anyway, it'll be one of those 41 home games that we play. But look, we're going to talk about this when we do our awards predictions. We're doing a home and home with the JVG NBA tribute show and friend of the pods, Alessio. And I am going to hit Jordan Poole so hard on the most improved player. I'm literally wearing his jersey, which came in the mail yesterday. Thank you to sfgate.com. Cost me $30 and it took about 3 months to get here.
Well, better late than never.
Well, I did it just in time for the warmer weather. Jordan Poole looks fucking amazing in the preseason. And he's definitely got the starting spot that was guaranteed 2 days ago. So he's going to be starting next to Steph Curry. And Steph has never had a creator like this next to him. It's always just been like smart players, smart passers, and like.
You mean next to him at the 2 or like in general?
At the 2. Okay. So like look at all even just on the court. Look at all the people who he plays with, and they're all playmakers.
Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green, like not.
Andre Iguodala, Draymond, they are real playmakers in the terms of like they're going to pass the ball, they're going to circle the ball around. It's like Kumbaya, Steve Kerr, Bing Bang Bong.
They're not a finisher.
But they're not a play finisher. Like he's never had a CJ McCollum next to him, and like it was really nice just seeing Steph Curry off the ball, and you're like, he might not touch the ball this play.
Yeah.
Whereas usually it's always like you've just got this intertwined connective glue around Steph Curry, but now it's like, oh, Steph, you can sort of play a little bit of your turn, my turn, which is typically bad, but it's something that we've never actually seen Steph Curry even try and do.
I mean, like I appreciate this Poole optimism, but the idea of like the MVP playing your turn, my turn with Jordan Poole is like that doesn't actually fill me with hope.
Well, I hope you should be filled with. And also, like, imagine if you put Jordan Poole on, like, Minnesota, he'll just look a little bit worse because for all the fucking gravity that D'Angelo Russell has, like, Jordan Poole's got even more space to work with because while he's got the ball, there's, like, 5 defenders looking at what Steph Curry's doing. Yeah, and Steve Kerr said that, yeah, we're going to win games, we're going to play more veterans, and Nemanja Bjelica looks fine, which I'm just taking a sigh of relief because he didn't look very fine for the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, he'll be a useful player.
But yeah, it's a pool party and everyone's invited. What have you done here?
I'm going under.
Oh,
yeah, no, don't hate me. Don't hate me. I'm going under. Like I think they're going to be like 45, 46, 47, but I don't think that they're going to be.
This is a 50-win team.
I just don't know. With Clay there for the whole season, I feel a lot better. But what's he going to miss the first 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Odds on that being 8 weeks, 10 weeks, high.
It'll be after Christmas.
So there's a world in which, just hear me out. What if this all happens? Kuminga and Moody, rookies, are not ready to contribute in any meaningful way. If they do play a lot, they're bad. Otherwise, they don't play a lot. Which is possible because there's veterans at their position ahead of them who, if they can't play, they want to play. What if Wiseman's bad? Then all of a sudden it's literally Steph, Dre, and Jordan Poole. And
Kevon Looney.
Well...
Bite your tongue.
Kevon Looney, again, with those fucking, it looks like he's got ice packs on his knee.
He actually tried to pull off a dream shake in the preseason game against Denver and missed it.
Points for trying. All of a sudden it's it's kind of like a rerun of last season to some extent. And
Otto Porter?
Yeah. He's there.
JTA?
Yeah.
It's an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
I think it's the other way around. You've got Andrew Wiggins and Damian Lee.
Yeah. Steph's brother-in-law, Damian Lee, contractually obliged to say that. I just think that there's a way in which this isn't the fully realised return to form of the Warriors, and that actually it's just a collection of young role players who maybe aren't in the right roles for them. Or in the right environment for them.
So, you've gone over on Denver saying they've got the MVP, they're just going to win games. Steph Curry was top 3 in MVP voting and, deserved to be there. MVP, good role
Do
players.
I like...
Denver's role players more.
Denver's role players and Gordon and MPJ better than I like Draymond Green and Jordan Poole. Yes, I do like Denver's role players better.
This is just a Sean fest of a conversation.
Yeah, well, I mean, literally, control yourself. This makes me wish I had 2 teams, so that
I don't have 2 teams.
Talk about the Suns and someone else. I'm like, whoa, both my teams.
I don't have 2 teams.
Collingwood is my first favourite team. Just there's heaps of old dudes who we don't know if they can play. In terms of role players, Iggy is washed. I'm afraid to say it. You're right. Bjelica hasn't looked good in a couple of years. Otto Porter hasn't looked good in 4 years
because of injuries.
Yeah, but that's kind of the point. If Wiseman and Kuminga are good, then problem solved. They'll be a 50-win team.
I'm not thinking that.
If they're not, then this is a problem. And you're, penciling in Jordan Poole he's going to be CJ McCollum this year, 23 and 5. And he's going to be the perfect pressure release valve for Steph. And it's well, what if that doesn't happen? And
it's going to happen.
I mean, I think
talk it into existence.
I think you're putting on pool-coloured glasses.
Do some Marie Kondo and just fucking make it happen.
Well,
Is that what she does? Or she just clean her room?
No, she cleans her. I think her catchphrase is does this spark joy?
Yes, it does. I bought his jersey.
You're keeping pool in your room because it does spark joy. For me, it sparks trepidation and cautiousness.
You want to know something funny about my fake jersey? It's got that little code where you scan it on the NBA app, and obviously I'm not going to try it because it's not going to work. But look how real that looks.
If you try and scan it on the NBA app, they'll dispatch the police to your location.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just have a friendly agree to disagree here.
Well, I mean, you're the one who's just going to lose the point at the end of the day.
Well, I'm prepared to be friendly about it, but you're obviously a bit
All right, let's take a quick break and then come back and talk about the Clippers. We were over the moon when we first heard that the NBA was going to be televised on Australian free-to-air TV in the 2019-20 season. It didn't exactly go swimmingly with the nasty cough halting the season and games getting cancelled left, right and centre, but it was a huge step and an exciting one for basketball fans all across the country.
Better yet, it wasn't a commercial channel cashing in on some basketball nerds like us. It was SBS, one of our public broadcasters. Unfortunately, the NBA wasn't the only thing SBS was pushing last season. They also ran advertisements from Sportsbet, Ladbrokes, Bet365, BetEasy, and Neds, some of the biggest sports betting companies in Australia.
In a one step forwards, two steps backwards move, SBS has dropped the ball here. As a public broadcaster, SBS plays a key role in providing relevant, culturally appropriate health information to local communities. The last thing SBS should be doing is offering a platform for gambling companies during the most financially unstable time in recent memory.
This past year, men aged 18 to 24 made up 79% of new gambling account holders, with increased median spending and frequency of bets. This is the last thing we should be spending our money on given the financial uncertainty that comes with the pandemic. During COVID lockdowns, wagering companies spent more money on advertising and incentives to gamble, and it worked. SBS needs to hear from viewers that gambling ad revenue isn't worth the harm it causes. Call on the SBS chair, George Savitas, to put community health ahead of gambling revenue by signing the petition at www.endgamblingAds.org.au/get-gambling-off-SBS with hyphens in between.
Ready when you are.
All right, we're back with the Los Angeles Clippers, whose over-under is set at 43.5. And this kind of threw me for a bit of a loop, to be honest, because I'm like looking at it, I'm thinking, yeah, hard over. It's the Clippers. Even without Kawhi, it's the Clippers. Like, this is a good team. And then I was like, wait. And I thought about it with the kind of depth and insight that listeners of this podcast have come to expect. And I've realized this team's actually really shit.
Yeah.
This team kind of sucks outside of Paul George. Kawhi's obviously going to miss the whole season, but who's like the next best player on the team outside of Paul George? Is it Reggie Jackson? Is it Serge Ibaka? Is it Eric Bledsoe? Those are pretty fucking terrible options for your second through fourth best players, which is what the situation is going to be. So 43.5, I'm going under because I think that they're going to be in an arm wrestle with the Warriors, with the Blazers, and I think both of those teams are going to be better than the Clippers. So I've gone under.
I hate to be the Paul George guy, but Paul George is really good. He's really easy and fun to make fun of.
Oh, he's so easy and so fun.
But like, we saw what he did without Kawhi in the playoffs, and I don't think that Suns series was an aberration, like taking them to 6 games while just like scoring the shit out of the ball. You're going to have a full season of Paul George as the 1A and the 1B. He just has 82 games to back up everything he's ever said about being the dude, and despite not hitting a game winner in his whole entire life, still having a Gatorade ad of him hitting a game winner. He's got this all for him, and surrounding him is like, yeah, who's the second best player? Probably Marcus Morris, right? But when you look at the lineup, if it's like, treat it like James Harden. So you've got this one elite scorer who can handle the ball in Paul George or James Harden, and around him you've just got Zubac, who's a rim rolling big, and then you've just got 3 shooters: Reggie Jackson, Marcus Morris, Luke Kennard, Terrence Mann, right? Every single person they can put around him is just a role player that can either dunk the ball or shoot the ball. And it's just Paul George's resume to be like, I'm a good fucking player still. I'm going to go out there, average 30 points, and will this team to 45 wins. I've hit the over.
Paul George, yes, he's an amazing player. He was third in the MVP, 4 years ago, when he was the beta to Russell Westbrook's alpha.
But he went on that run when Westbrook was out, didn't he? Or was that with Westbrook?
I think that was with Westbrook.
Okay.
It was that season.
I'm not scratched up in my fucking Paul George lore.
I just don't really actually back Paul George to be like the kind of... this model works when you got James Harden. James Harden. The cunt's averaging 36 points. The bloke is literally putting up the third highest average ever. And the only people ahead of him is Wilt Chamberlain and fucking Michael Jordan. So Paul George, even if he's a top 10 player this year, I don't know that this team is good enough. Barring Jackson continues playing his playoff form, and Bledsoe has like a big resurgence, and like Justice Winslow gets on the court, and Marcus Morris is like continues being the 42% 3-point shooter, averaging 21 points. Like I just, it seems like a lot of moving parts. And if it was, if PG was out and it was Kawhi, then I'd say over, because I trust Kawhi to be able to will them. But I just don't think Paul George is quite that good. And whatever esoteric, abstract like thing there is to like having it as like an NBA superstar, the kind of it you would need to like lock in for a whole season and say like, this is my team, like I'm doing this. I don't think he has it. That's my like, that's my like Skip Bayless team. He doesn't have it.
Yeah, I completely get you, but I'm just assuming
you're just a bit of a simp for Paul George. I understand. Happens to the best of us.
I mean, I'd much rather love Paul George than love Bobby.
Well,
Portis.
I'll tell you what. When he
your mate Grayson Allen.
Well, I was actually going to extend an olive branch to you, but now you've just done that, so you can deal.
Maybe if Bobby Portis is on this team instead of Zubac, someone who can actually score. God,
terrible.
It's just like. You can see how we've got this difference of opinion. We'll just have to find out if Paul George can do it.
Well, I was going to say, when it fails and he can't do it, we can both come back together and laugh at him and make.
Oh yeah, no, that's a massive silver lining.
It's good to always have that option to come back to.
if you can't laugh at Paul George, then what are you doing?
Exactly.
The next team is the Sacramento Kings, whose number is set at 36.5. And what have you done here, Dante Buffer?
I've gone under.
Wow, this is the team that's just on the precipice of the NBA's elite just 2 years ago.
Yeah, how did that work out for us?
If you extrapolate this out 82 games, I'm just going to ignore that question because that's a dark period in our lives. If you extrapolate their numbers out from last year, this would put them one win better than this past season. And like, how are they getting better when everyone else around them has gotten better?
Yeah, I think that of the Grizz, Pelicans, Kings, Minnesota kind of clump, I think that they're the worst team in that range. And they're probably not going to. I think that'll all be within like 5 or 6 games of each other.
Yeah.
But I think that they're the worst, so they're going to probably be like 33, 34, 35 wins.
I think the Spurs are going to be better than the Kings.
See, I'm not going to spoil my pick for later, but I'm having a hard time like getting on board with the Spurs.
I'm having an easy time.
Throw the Spurs in that clump as well. Like if like probably only 2 of those teams of those 5 teams are going to make the play-in. Some of them are going to have to drop down. I think that the Kings are a pretty good candidate to be one of those teams that drop. So I'm pretty confident in the under. I don't think it'll be an under by much. I think they will be in that mid-30s range, but I'm confident that it'll be there.
The only way they go over is if they trade for Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
Were you listening to Zach Lowe's? I mean, he's been smashing out the podcast lately, but one of his podcasts last week where he was just talking about the Kings, he's like, they're talking about the Ben Simmons situation, and they're like, okay, well, Sacramento, if you really just want to end that drought, just trade for Ben Simmons right now because he will make you that team. And then Zach Lowe's like, even just trade De'Aaron Fox for him. And I was like, oh, they're not left with much, Mr.
I don't know about that, but there are reports coming out that they're not putting Halliburton in the trade, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, 100%. I think that is so dumb.
So you would do Hield and Halliburton?
Yeah.
Actually,
and that wouldn't be enough. Like you need Hield, Halliburton, and picks.
Yeah, well, the fact that Daryl Morey. So just yesterday, the Trailblazers declined an offer for Ben Simmons.
Yeah, but that was a
six.
Yeah,
picks,
6.
man.
I mean, come on, pull your
fucking thumb out, Daryl.
6 picks and salary. So you can make a guess as to who the salary is. The easiest way to match the salary is CJ.
Yeah.
So 6 picks plus a borderline all-star level. Like, come on, Daryl, come back to us.
Yeah, I know.
But I would put Halliburton in a heartbeat, because is Halliburton going to be an all-star or is he going to be Malcolm Brogdon?
Malcolm Brogdon could be an all-star.
Well, if they ended the season after 12 games, Malcolm Brogdon would be all-NBA first team.
But if you look at it like, if you've just got like a 10 pathways that Tyrese Halliburton can go down, and then so let's say we've just eliminated the MVP pathway, right?
Yeah.
And it's just slowly getting longer. But as we're looking at it, the biggest pathway is All-Star, All-NBA, and the smallest pathway is just bad player like Tyreek Evans. As we get further and further down Halliburton's career, those top end opportunities are going to be cut off. But right now, he could be an All NBA player.
But the thing is, like it's not necessarily. I'm going to take a step back to the draft process. The people who were saying he could go as high as like number 6 to the Hawks and like he's rising up the boards, they weren't saying like, you know, this guy's got like amazing potential. They were saying this guy's going to come in and be really good right away.
Sean Livingston.
And the reason why he's good, it's not a situation where it's like, whoa, like we had no idea that this guy was going to be so good and he blew us away. Everything he's good at is exactly what they said he would be good at. He's just proving all of the draft people who said he's going to be good right away right.
Yeah.
It's a bit more unpredictable to say like whether or not he'll like take another leap and whatever, but I'm not like penciling him in as like a 20 point, 26 and 6 kind of player like by any stretch of the imagination. And Ben Simmons is Ben Simmons. Like you have a chance to get Ben Simmons, you want to make the fucking playoffs. Well, guess what? You're gonna in 2 years' time, if you don't make this trade or whatever, you're going to be potentially having to ask yourself some hard questions about what's Halliburton's worth in restricted free agency. Do we want to pay him $20 million?
Fuck. Because if he's 3 years away, man.
Well, I mean, this is how it works. So
anyway, the birds and the bees.
The birds and the bees. It's a long divergence, but I'm going under on the Kings.
I'm also going under, and my final note is it's really hopeless in Sacramento, and I feel bad for Alessio, resident Kings fan. Yeah, you're in our thoughts, Alessio.
He's like Iron Man, though. He's just like completely sealed his basketball heart off.
He's sealed his sports heart, man. Like, what do you he said to us the other day, Newcastle, Sacramento. Yeah, they're all got their own issues. Yeah. Can you actually off air? Can you explain to me the whole fucking Newcastle situation? I got no idea.
Big thoughts on that.
All right, let's not record it as the basketball part.
Big thoughts on that.
The depth, the deep two. God, that's a mouthful. Anyways, I'm Marco, co-host of the Hey, Daniel Gafford, what's the name of our podcast?
The JVG NBA Tribute Show.
Wow, I can't believe it's that easy. Thanks, Gaff. You probably know us as two members of the Four Man Weave plus Marco, but we know you as our next listener.
Well said, Lucas. I gotta ask, how do we differ from the pack of basketball podcasts?
It's a great question, Marco. You see, on our basketball podcast, we have two male co-hosts.
Wow, truly groundbreaking. After this episode, stay on your favourite podcasting app and give us a spin.
Moving on to the next team, which is the Dallas Mavericks, whose number is set at 48.5. So they wanted to sign Giannis Antetokounmpo this past off-season. Obviously, that door's shut. They hired Jason Kidd as the head coach, who said he would like to start Kristaps Porzingis at the power forward position for the whole entire year. They signed Reggie Bullock, who I don't love the signing, but like it's fine. And they got Moses Brown in a trade where OKC wanted to get as far away as possible from Moses Brown, which is a little bit of a red flag. And I think, like, again, you're just asking Luka to do some amazing stuff, and he's done amazing stuff for the past 2 seasons, but I don't think not really improving the roster and just asking Luka to again average 30 points and be an incredible, just like, James Harden like.
And downgrading a coach.
You want them to win 50 games, So I've gone under.
I've also gone under.
Yeah.
Because, pretty much everything that you just said, like this is a good roster, but the coaching change, all the issues surrounding KP, committing to playing KP at the 4 like right away. KP's whole value comes from him playing at the 5. Yeah. If he's playing at the 4,
he's defending on the perimeter.
It's easy to switch on him. He's not around the rim. Then you also have to play like fucking Boban or Willie Cauley-Stein or Moses Brown.
Well, they said they're going to start Dwight Powell.
There you go. Dwight Powell, who did look like he got some pop back at the end of last season after his ACL injury.
Yeah.
Maybe, or was it an Achilles injury? Something bad for Dwight Powell. I just think that it's a similar situation to the Nuggets, where you've got one dude who's quite clearly like a top 5, MVP candidate kind of guy. It's hard to see them not getting to 50 wins, but whereas everything in Denver is, kind of synchronized and flows through Jokic and really amplifies his skill set. I kind of feel like Luka has to like do things in spite of the players around him.
Yeah.
So if KP comes out and averages 24, no problem. 16, 20, 50 games. Yeah, but I mean, I just like I'm happy to take the L on
if
that.
KP does something.
If KP does it, like I'll just believe that when I see it.
Yeah, I like the Denver comp because they've both got the exact same over-under at 48.5. Yeah, it's just pretty kind of shit in Dallas. Like, obviously, Luka's just been re-signed for the 5-year max deal, but like, they don't really have anyone growing alongside him. Like, Tim Hardaway Jr. is like 28 or 29. KP has got his own issues and might not be the same player he's ever been. Reggie Bullock's on the wrong side of 30. It's like him and Jalen Brunson.
Well, I mean, Reggie Bullock was the third or fourth dude that you just mentioned. Like, woof.
Yeah, but it's him and Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson, who is apparently untouchable in trades. I mean, I think he should be untouchable, but...
Reports coming out that the Mavs won't put Jalen Brunson in a Ben Simmons trade.
Moving on to the next team, the Memphis Grizzlies, whose number's set at 41.5. I've gone over. I think they're going to go just a little bit over. I think they're going to be back in the play-in again. Like, yes, they made their team arguably worse by obviously trading and taking on those salaries from the New Orleans Pelicans, but this team's just getting better elsewhere as well. And like, yes, Adams isn't as good as Giannis Valanciunas, but he's still a good player and he's still a fine player. He's not worth his money, but he's still a fine player in there just to soak up minutes and just to be a big body. And if Jaren Jackson Jr. finally takes a leap in a contract year, yeah, you've got something there, and you've got.
If he finally stays on the court.
If he finally stays on the court, I've gone over, but not by a lot. What have you done?
I'm also over, but not by a lot. I think back jar in. Hope that Triple J can stay on the court for 60 plus games, and like even if he doesn't take a leap, like that will just unlock their offense in a way that will kind of take it out of the mud, which it was at various points last year. They added Jarrett Culver, so can't look past that. I kid, but they do have just tons and tons of rando dudes and big national NBA Zach Lowe kind of type guys have been talking about this idea of a consolidation trade for a while, where you just get 2 or 3 of your good young role players and put them in a deal, and you bring in someone a bigger salary, a bigger player, bigger role. So that I think could be on the cards here. You've like literally just like going through like the people who are on like small salaries. It's like Kyle Anderson, Brandon Clark, D'Anthony Melton, Xavier Tillman was really good. You've got Tyus Jones.
I think any trade would have to include Dylan Brooks as well.
Well, I mean, Dylan Brooks is at about 15 mil, so you throw Dylan Brooks in there and you can get up to 25 mil with a couple other pieces pretty easily. So I think that could be coming down the pipeline, and I trust Memphis's front office to like make that. It's going to be a considered trade for the right player. It's not going to be like, whoa, like the Knicks want to get rid of Fournier, we'll take him. So I think as they are, I think they're the best team of that little group that I mentioned before that will be fighting for the last play-in spot and to not be like among the worst teams in the West. Yeah. Although, OKC probably has that like already wrapped up.
Apparently not, Dante. Go on.
Yeah. But yeah, I think even if that trade wasn't to come through the pipeline, that this team would be the best of those, and like barely above, like we're talking like 42, 43 wins.
Moving on to the New Orleans Pelicans, who set at 39.5. I've gone over, just because, as with the past couple of seasons, I really like Zion Williamson. I think he's really good at basketball.
He's not bad.
I'm not a fan.
Take that much for free.
I'm obviously not a fan of the rest of the moves in the off season, but I think just Zion again growing, again just being fully healthy, even though he just had foot surgery. It's like still 40 wins. That's doable, and they should be in the play-in range. Maybe if they had a different general manager, they'd be in the playoff range. But that's a different day. We can talk about that when he gets fired.
Who's their general manager?
David Griffin.
Get that bloke out of here. Get that bloke out of here. Imagine the day when he does get fired. We'll have to like literally do like a ritual or something and like paint each other's bodies and like burn some incense. We'll do a live stream of that.
All right. Well,
put in the
Florence Pugh will be there and just burn us.
Put in the content calendar. I could go for Florence Pugh being there.
Yeah, in a bear costume, burning men.
She's actually really good in
Black Widow. Because no, she's not.
Yeah, no, I have heard her terrible Russian accent. No, in Outlaw King, which is a Netflix movie with Chris Pine and Florence Pugh that tells the story of Robert the Bruce, who was one of the kings in like the mid 1300s that broke away from the yoke of English rule, and established Scotland as an independent kingdom once more. Yeah.
Oh,
had to do some bad stuff along the way. Robert the Bruce. He's not all of not all a hero, but anyway, Florence Pugh is his wife in that.
She's also really good in Little Women. She plays a spoiled little brat.
Yeah,
but really, really well.
Anyway, we'll put that in the content calendar. Incense and body painting ritual with Florence Pugh. What were we talking about? We're talking about the Pelicans.
Yeah.
I've gone just over. I think that it'll be them and the Grizzlies that neck and neck for play-in spots.
Yeah.
It's hard to go under when they've got Zion.
Yeah.
So
let's just hope that it works, because I really want the Pelicans to be good.
I kind of just want Zion to go to the Knicks. I don't know.
Whoa, clickbait. Let's put that in the title.
Top 3 Zion destinations. You won't believe number 2. Yeah, cool. Well, should we move on to your spiritual third team, the San Antonio Spurs?
I've never had any alignment with the Spurs.
I don't know.
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
I probably watched this in I probably watched the Spurs bottom 5th most out of any team.
The San Antonio Josh Primos is what we should call them for you.
The San Antonio Josh Primo Spurs, their number is set at 29.5, and I've gone over. There was I know this podcast is going up next week, but there was a report yesterday, just to date it. It came out at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was top replacements for Greg Popovich, and I'm like, did he just retire? So I look at it, but the article was had some really weird quotes coming out of San Antonio where it was Pop's eventually going to retire. You do know that. We need to look who's going to replace him. It was just Becky Hammond, Tim Duncan. You can write the article yourself, right? But it was just very much hey guys, he's going to retire soon. I hope you know that. They need 24 wins for Greg Popovich to become the most winningest coach of all time, and that is obviously 5 less than this. But I think the only bad defensive player on this roster, well, 2, Doug McDermott and Josh Primo, and Josh Primo might not be playing too much. They're just a very, very, very good defense. And I'm not even going to consider whether Lonnie Walker or Keldon Johnson just explode into a go-to scorer, because I don't think that's going to happen. I think that ship sailed. I just think they're a really good defense. They know how to win games. Pop teams always overperform, and 30 wins, that's easy peas. What do you reckon?
I've gone under. I've gone under because there's probably only going to be 2 teams that are in the low 20s, which will be the low to mid 20s, which will be Houston and OKC, which means that the win mathematically the win distribution means that there's going to be a big belt of teams in the 30s and 40s, and that's going to have to be spread. And I think that these guys are probably going to be high 20s, but they're not better than they kind of feast on. Traditionally, the Spurs pop teams have feasted on bad teams. If you're shit, if we're better than you, we're going to beat you every time. And it's well, who are they really better than on paper? There's maybe 3 or 4 teams in this conference that you can make an argument for that they're better on paper, that they'll win, all 3 of their matchups, all 4 of their matchups with them.
Yeah.
And the rest of them, the East is better than what it has been as well. So it's not like you can just fatten up on your Eastern Conference schedule. I'm not in love with any of the players on this team. I'm not a big Derek White fan. I'm not a big DeJounte Murray fan. Huge Josh Primo fan, but that's beside the point.
They pretty much just have to beat the Timberwolves and the Kings every time they see them, and it would be horrible for the Wolves. Great for me if the Spurs leapfrog them in the standings by the end of the year.
You would know. You'd have it in your mind's eye, I'm sure, what the number is that Pop needs to get to be the
24.
24.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm rooting for them to get to 24 wins.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for them to get to 24, but I can't see them going too much over that. So I'm hitting the under on 29.5.
Yeah. Completely fair enough. Let me just get this number up again. 25 wins.
25 wins for Pop to pass Donnie Nelson as the all-time winningest coach.
Well, first he's got to pass Lenny Wilkins, who's number 2.
Oh, Lenny.
Who's 3 wins.
They did call him Sneaky Lenny, and that's why. He's always just kind of hiding where you didn't expect him.
Yeah, so
classic Lenny Sneaky Wilkins.
Greg Popovich has 1,310 wins, and Don Nelson has 1,335 wins.
To put that in context, you would need, if you were a terrible NBA coach and you won 13 games a season, you'd need to coach for 100 years to get that. Truly puts the stature of the accomplishment into perspective.
Who's the Minnesota coach? The one with the hair?
With the hair?
The son, Ryan Saunders.
Ryan Saunders.
Yeah, that was Ryan Saunders.
With the hair? What do you mean?
He looks like a fucking cartoon, man.
Doesn't he just look like a regular, like...
Nah, it's real slick. Look at that. That's
he
not
just
real.
Looks like a dude.
He looks like a doll.
He just looks like a dude.
It looks like it's painted.
I'll tell you what though. I've googled Ryan Saunders hair, and the first thing that's come up is from www.hairlebrity.com, and it says Ryan Saunders' new haircut updated September 2021.
It's like wiki.
Everything you need to know about his controversial new style.
Nah, he looks like a G.I. Joe. Or as I like to call him, a G.I. Joe.
Whoa, this website is actually fucking insane. It's not providing me a picture of his hair, but then it says, how do you like his new haircut? Vote now. And then it gives me all of these like Goosebumps R.L. Stein fonts. It sucks. Meh, I've seen better. So hot right now, or not too shabby. I'm going to go, meh, I've seen better. At my own peril. Don't like...
Alright, Dante, hold us together. We've got one more.
we got one more. We are down the Ryan Saunders hair rabbit hole. Alright, let's finish this off strong with everybody's favourite NBA basketball team from Houston, the Houston Rockets. They are at 26.5 wins. As I mentioned just before, I fully expect them to be competing with OKC to be the worst team in the conference. I'm going under.
I am also going under. They've got all the downward momentum to be a bad team. Jalen Green has looked really good in the preseason so far, but you look at all their young players like Josh Christopher, Usman Garuba, Şengün, who swears at the basketball in Turkish at every free throw, which must just be stressful for the ball. Kevin Porter Jr. is still there and is going to take a lot of shots. I think they're really well set up for the future, but right now they're like, while Jalen Green might be like an amazing, like might have a Luka Doncic rookie season, like an efficient 16 points per game, that's not enough to pull you off the bottom. And yeah, this team's just young, going to make mistakes and wants to lose games, so they're going to lose games.
Yeah, John Wall probably going to get traded. Maybe he wants to get traded.
He's not going to get traded.
He doesn't understand how numbers work, so he's like, someone's going to take my remaining $80 million on my contract.
Yeah, it's he says he's not going to play until he gets a trade.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Why?
The Westbrook saga in LA, not saga, experience, is not going to work out, and there's going to be another Westbrook for Wall swap, and Westbrook's going to end up back on the Rockets. And then he's going to ruin Jalen Green like he did Victor Oladipo, and Jalen Green's going to move to another random team, maybe Indiana, and we're going to see Jalen Green bloom playing next to Karis LeVert for the next 5 years. That's my official prediction.
Yeah, whatever he said. We're both hitting the under. Well, this is another year over, huh? Says John Lennon.
I can't wait for next year. So when you beat me again, make it a hat trick.
All right. So by the time people listen to this, this is getting pre-recorded. Shock and awe. This is getting pre-recorded. So we are going to post this next week. So we won't be able to naturally promote our next episode. But the next episode we know will be doing a 4-man Wave plus Marco on the JVG NBA Tribute Show, where the 5 of us are going to run through our NBA awards a day before the season starts. And then the following day when the season starts, it's going to be back on our podcast feed talking about everything that happened on opening night. So make sure you're subscribed to the JVG NBA Tribute Show on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your daily podcasts. And while you're there, also subscribe to us. And yeah, just stay tuned for the content to come. And Our third over-unders in the books, is it not?
Wow, you know we've been doing this for 2.5 years?
Yeah, and luckily we've been able to squeeze 3 seasons into it thanks to the pandemic.
Jeez. Thanks, Spicy Cough.
Well,
also, that was wonderful cross-pollination by you. Wonderful stuff.
Don't say pollination, I've got hay fever. I will talk to you next week.